Most judgments are made quickly. A glance, a moment, a single piece of evidence. Sometimes, that's all it takes to decide who someone is. At 2:47 in the morning, a security camera captured 11 minutes of footage that seemed to say everything anyone needed to know. A man asleep on the job, a responsibility neglected, a decision that felt obvious. By the end of that week, he was gone. What no one questioned was what happened before that moment, or what stopped happening after. This is one of those stories. Yes, the timestamp reads 2 hours 47 minutes and 13 seconds. Camera 4, Northwest Corridor. The frame is gray and grainy, lit by fluorescent lights that hum just beyond the microphone's range. There's a figure slumped forward at the security desk. His head rests on his crossed arms. The monitor in front of him cycles through empty hallways. His shoulder rises and falls. Deep sleep. The footage continues for 11 minutes. On the third floor, for people who are watching this playback on a laptop, the facility's manager leans back. The HR director taps notes into her tablet. The shift supervisor says nothing. The safety coordinator clicks to the next file. Same camera. Different night. 1 hour, 33 minutes and 41 seconds. He's asleep again. Next file. 3 hours, 15 minutes and 22 seconds. Still asleep. The facility's manager closes a laptop. That's enough. The HR director nods. Standard protocol. Document everything. I'll draft the termination letter. How long has he been here? The safety coordinator asks. For years. Never had an issue before this month. The facility's manager shrugs. Everyone has a breaking point, or they stop caring. Either way, we can't have it. This building is a mid-rise medical storage facility, pharmaceutical inventory, laboratory samples, backup medical equipment for 3 regional hospitals. The night shift exists because temperature regulation and security monitoring can't pause. A sleeping guard is a liability no insurance company will accept. HR schedules the meeting for Friday at 4 p.m., 30 minutes before his shift would have started. No one objects. The next day in the break room, 2 daytime security officers talk it over. Saw the footage. The younger one says, everyone did. I get being tired, but that's the whole job. Stay awake. Watch the screens. The older officer shrugs. He's got kids, I think. So do I. I still show up. Fair enough. That's it. No one defends him. No one attacks him either. The conclusion is already formed. Solid as concrete. That Wednesday night, the guard shows up for his shift at 10:47. 3 minutes early, like always. Signs in at the front desk. Exchanges nods with the evening supervisor. Takes his position at the monitors. His eyes are heavy. Dark circles underneath that weren't there 6 months ago. He opens his thermos. Black coffee. Drinks half before midnight. At 1:15, he walks the north corridor. Flashlight cutting across doorways and junction boxes. Checks 3 access panels. Tests 2 emergency exits. Logs the climate control readings on the second floor. At 2:20, he's back at his desk. At 2:50, his head dips forward. At 3:05, he jolts awake. Stares at the monitors. Doesn't write it down. Doesn't report it. Finishes his shift. Signs out at 6:58 a.m. Leaves through the side entrance. Thursday morning. The facility's manager reviews the new footage. Same thing. He tells HR. The meeting is confer. Med. The HR director's office is small and neutral. Desk. 2 chairs. Calendar on the wall, showing benefit enrollment deadlines. The guard sits across from her, hands folded in his lap. She's got the folder open. Screenshots from the security feed. Incident timestamps. Employee handbook section on negligence and termination. I'm sure you know why you're here. He nods once. We've documented multiple instances over the past 2 weeks where you were asleep during your shift. You're aware this is a direct violation of your duties. Yes. Is there anything you'd like to say? Any explanation? He looks at her for a moment, shakes his head. No. She waits. People usually fill the silence. Apologize. Make excuses. Ask for a second chance. He does none of these things. You understand we have to terminate your employment effective immediately. I understand. She slides a document across the desk. This outlines your final paycheck, accrued PTO, and a return of your badge and uniform. Sign here. He reads it, not rushing, then signs. She collects the paper, adds it to the folder, stands. You can return your badge and key card at the front desk. Security will escort you to get any personal items from your locker. He stands too. Thank you. The phrase catches her off guard. Not sarcastic, not bitter, just automatic. Good luck, she says. Means it the way people mean polite things. At the front desk, he surrenders his badge and key card. The daytime guard takes them without comment, drops them in a deactivation tray. Another guard walks with him to the basement locker room. He opens his locker, removes a jacket, phone charger, small notebook. The escort watches from the doorway. Not hostile, just present. You need a box or anything? No, this is it. They walk back upstairs together. The building is bright and busy during the day. People moving through halls with clipboards and key rings. No one looks at him. No one knows. The termination was handled quietly. At the side entrance, the escort holds the door. The guard steps out into afternoon light. The door closes behind him with a hydraulic hiss. He stands there a moment, looking back at the building, then walks to his car. 15-year-old sedan, dented bumper, cracked taillight. Gets in, starts the engine, drives away. That evening, HR files the paperwork. Monday, the facility's manager posts the job listing. 12 people apply within 3 days. No one mentions the former guard AG. Ein. He wakes at 5:30 a.m. in a one-bedroom apartment on the south side. Blinds are closed, but light comes through the edges. He sits up slowly, rubs his face with both hands. The apartment is neat but worn. Thrift store furniture, kitchen table with 2 chairs, dishes drying by the sink. On the counter, a row of prescription bottles with labels facing out. None of them have his name. He makes instant coffee, drinks it standing at the window. Outside, the street is already awake. Bus stops at the corner. Man in a reflective vest, loading tools into a truck. At 6:15, he leaves, drives 20 minutes to a construction site, parks in the gravel lot, walks to the site office, a trailer with plywood steps. Inside, a foreman assigns him to debris removal on the 3rd floor. He works until 2:30, carrying lumber scraps, sweeping concrete dust, hauling drywall to the dumpster. Hard, repetitive work. He doesn't complain, doesn't talk much at all. At 3 o'clock, he clocks out, drives to a diner 6 blocks away, orders eggs and toast, eats quickly, checks his phone twice. No messages. At 4 o'clock, he's back in his car, drives 15 miles north to a warehouse district, parks behind a building with no sign, enters through the loading bay, nods to a man sorting packages, begins his second shift, inventory processing, scanning barcodes, moving pallets, updating stock counts in a computer system that crashes twice an hour, works alone most of it, fluorescent lights flickering overhead. At 11 p.m., he finishes, clocks out on a tablet mounted to the wall, drives home, arrives at 11:40, heats a can of soup on the stove, eats it from the pot, showers, sets an alarm for 5:30, lies down in the dark. He doesn't sleep well. Next day is the same. And the next, Wednesday, he stops at a pharmacy after construction, hands the technician a folded piece of paper. She types, frowns, types again. This is going to be $340. He nods, takes out his wallet, pays in cash, bills that are creased and soft. She hands him a white paper bag. He puts it in his jacket pocket, leaves. Thursday morning, gas station. Withdraws $200 from an ATM. Receipt shows a balance of $126.47. Folds it, puts it in his wallet without looking again. Friday evening, after the warehouse shift, he drives to a different part of town. Small houses close together, chain link fences, streets without curbs. Parks in front of a house with peeling paint and a sagging gutter. A woman in her 60s opens the door before he reaches the porch. Thin and tired. When she sees him, her expression softens. You don't have to keep doing this. I know. She lets him in. Living room smells like menthol and old carpet. A man sits in a recliner with an oxygen tank beside him. Plastic tubing runs to his nose. Looks up when the guard enters. "You're late," the man says, but he's smiling. Traffic. The guard hands the woman the pharmacy bag. She opens it, checks the label, sets it on the kitchen counter with the others. "How much do I owe you?" "Nothing." "That's not." "Mom, it's fine." She looks at him for a long time, then hugs him. He stands there and lets her. Stays for 20 minutes. His father asks about work. He says it's fine. His mother offers food. He says he already ate. Neither mentions the medical bills, the mortgage, the fact that his father hasn't worked in 2 years. When he leaves, his mother walks him to the door. "You look tired." "I'm okay." "You're not sleeping." "I'm fine, Mom." She touches his arm. "Thank you." He drives home, asleep by midnight. The cycle continues. The medical storage facility runs on schedules. Deliveries at 6 a.m. Inventory audits at 9. Climate system checks every 4 hours. The building is 30 years old. Everything in it has been repaired at least once. The HVAC system in the pharmaceutical wing is the most critical. Maintains a constant 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Monitored by sensors that report to a central server. If the temperature rises above 45 for more than 30 minutes, alarms trigger. Emergency protocol begins. The system has backup compressors, redundant coolant lines, secondary power supply. It's never failed, but it's come close. 3 years ago, a coolant leak in the East Wing went undetected for 6 hours. By the time maintenance found it, temperature had reached 43 degrees. Thousands of dollars in insulin and biologics flagged for destruction. The incident was reviewed, procedures updated, new sensors installed. The guard on duty that night noticed a discrepancy in the readout, called it in at 2 a.m. Emergency repair crew arrived by 3. The report credited him for preventing a larger loss. No one remembers that now. In the weeks after his termination, the new night guard is trained and scheduled. He's younger, eager, stays awake, follows the checklist precisely, logs every reading, walks every corridor, tests every exit. Second week, he notices an access panel in the north stairwell slightly ajar. Opens it, junction box inside. Everything looks normal. Closes it, moves on. Third week, checks the climate logs. Sees a notation from 2 months prior. Minor temperature fluctuation in the pharmaceutical wing. Logged and cleared. Note says, sensor recalibrated. Compressor pressure adjusted. Doesn't think much of it. Fourth week, backup generator is tested during the day. Starts normally. Runs 10 minutes. Shuts down as expected. Facilities manager signs off. No one checks the fuel filter or coolant reservoir. The building continues its routine. People come and go. Deliveries made. Inventory counted. Systems hum and click and maintain their invisible work. But small things begin to shift. Motion sensor in the loading bay stops responding. Maintenance called. Battery replaced. Works again. Door lock in the east corridor sticks. Maintenance oils the mechanism. Opens smoothly. Fire suppression system shows a pressure drop during routine test. Maintenance inspects the line. Finds nothing. Logs it as sensor error. These aren't emergencies. They're minor, routine, except they weren't happening before. The daytime supervisor mentions it to the facilities manager in passing. Feels like we're fixing more stuff than usual. It's an old building. Things wear out. Yeah, I guess. Conversation ends, but the pattern continues. It happens on a Tuesday night in early autumn. The new night guard is at his desk, cycling through camera feeds. Everything quiet. Building locked and secured. Logs current. At 11:47 p.m., the pharmaceutical wing climate system registers a temperature increase from 40 degrees to 41.2. Guard sees the alert on his screen. Checks system status. All compressors running. No errors reported. Logs the alert. Continues monitoring. By 12:15 a.m., temperature is at 42.8. He calls the facilities manager at home. Voicemail. calls the emergency maintenance line. Recording tells him to leave a message. At 12:30, temperature reaches 44 degrees. Guard locks the monitor station, goes to the pharmaceutical wing himself, opens the access door to the mechanical room. Compressors are running, loud and steady. He doesn't know what else to check. Calls the daytime supervisor. No answer. At 12:50, temperature hits 45. Alarm system activates. Red lights flash in the corridor. Automated message plays over the intercom, instructing personnel to report to designated zones. The guard is alone. At 1:10 a.m., a maintenance technician finally returns his call. Guard explains the situation. Technician says he'll be there in 30 minutes. At 1:35, temperature is at 46.3. Technician arrives at 1:42. Older, gray-haired, carrying a toolbox, goes directly to the mechanical room, opens a panel on the primary compressor, checks the pressure gauge. Coolant's low. Can you fix it? Not tonight. We'll need to order a part and schedule a shutdown. What about the temperature? Technician looks at the gauge again, then at the guard. Start moving inventory to backup cold storage. Anything critical, get it out now. Guard spends the next 3 hours relocating pharmaceutical stock. By the time daytime shift arrives, the wing is empty. Temperature stabilized at 48 degrees. Facilities manager arrives at 7:30 a.m. Surveys the mechanical room, the relocated inventory, the incident report on the guard's desk. How long was the coolant low? He asked the technician. Hard to say. Could have been gradual. Could have been sudden. We test this system every quarter, and it passed. Sometimes things go wrong between tests. Manager nods, but he's frowning. Get it fixed today. I want a full diagnostic. Technician returns that afternoon with a replacement part, installs it, checks the pressure, runs the system for 2 hours. Everything operates within normal parameters, but when he's draining the old coolant, he notices something. The reservoir has a small valve on the side, used for pressure equalization. It's open a quarter turn. He closes it. System pressure increases immediately. When was the last time someone adjusted this? He asked the daytime maintenance lead. No one touches that unless we're doing a full service, and we haven't done one in 8 months. Technician makes a note in his report. Someone opened it. Recently. Lead checks the maintenance logs. No entry. Could it have vibrated loose? The manager asks. Not likely. It's a manual valve. Manager stares at the valve for a long moment, then looks at the technician. Put in the report. Mark it as unexplained. Report is filed. System restored. Inventory returned to the wing. But the question remains. Who adjusted the valve? And why? The quarterly safety audit happens in late October. Third-party inspector spends 2 days walking the building, reviewing logs, testing systems, routine process, required by insurance and regulatory standards. Second day, the inspector finds an inconsistency. He's reviewing maintenance records for the backup generator. Notices a fuel purchase that isn't logged in the facility's budget. Receipt dated 4 months prior. $340 for diesel fuel. Paid in cash. He asked the facility's manager about it. I don't have a record of that. Manager pulls up the budget file. We use a contracted service for fuel. They bill us quarterly. Then where did this come from? Manager examines the receipt. Standard printout from a truck stop 20 miles away. No company name. No employee signature. Just a date, a price, and a handwritten note in the corner. Generator reserve. I have no idea. Inspector makes a note. Continues his review. Later that afternoon, he's inspecting the fire suppression system in the east wing. Notices something unusual. One of the pressure valves has been replaced recently. The metal is newer, less corroded than the surrounding components. Checks the maintenance log. No work order. No documentation. He asks the daytime lead. We didn't replace that. I would have signed off on it. Then who did? Lead shrugs. Maybe it was an emergency repair. During whose shift? Lead doesn't have an answer. Inspector documents both findings in his report. Submits it to the facility's manager Friday morning. That afternoon, manager calls a meeting. Daytime lead, HR director, safety coordinator, They review the report together. 2 unexplained maintenance actions, the safety coordinator says. 1 fuel purchase, 1 valve replacement, both unauthorized. Could it be an error? The HR director asks. Paperwork that got lost? Maybe. The manager says, but it's a pattern, and the timing bothers me. What timing? Manager opens another file on his laptop. Fuel purchase was in June. Valve replacement in July. Both those months. We had minor system issues that resolved themselves before we could send anyone out. Resolved how? I don't know, but I'm starting to think someone was fixing things off the books. Safety coordinator leans back. Who would do that? Someone with access to the building. The HR director says, someone who knew the systems. They all think the same thing at the same time. The night guard. Manager opens a personnel file. Scrolls through the termination documents. Incident reports. Sign acknowledgement forms. Then stops. When do we let him go? August. The HR director says. Middle of August. And when did these issues start? Coordinator checks the maintenance logs. First report was late August. Minor stuff. Sensors. Locks. The room goes quiet. Manager closes a laptop. Pulls access logs. Every time he badged in or out. I want to see where he went and when. HR director nods. I'll have it by Monday. But the answer is already forming. The access logs arrive Monday afternoon. Printed on 12 pages. Single-spaced. Covering 4 years of employment. Every entry and exit. Every corridor he walked. Every system he checked. Facilities manager reads through them with the daytime lead. Most of it is routine. Guard followed his rounds precisely. Same areas. Same times each night. But there are anomalies. In March, he accessed mechanical room 3 times in 1 week. No work orders filed. In April, badged into the electrical room twice on the same night. Logs show he stayed 40 minutes each time. In May, entered the backup generator room at 3 a.m. Left 20 minutes later. What was he doing? The lead asks. Manager doesn't answer immediately. He's looking at a pattern he hadn't noticed before. Every anomaly corresponds to a date when a system issue was logged and then cleared without maintenance intervention. He picks up his phone, calls the technician who handled the coolant leak 3 years ago. Do you remember the night guard who caught that HVAC failure? Yeah, called it in early. Probably saved us a lot of product loss. Did he ever ask you about the systems? How they worked? Technician pauses. Once or twice. Nothing weird. Just wanted to understand what he was monitoring. Did you show him anything? Teach him anything? I explained the basics. Pressure readings. Temperature, thresholds. He seemed interested. Interested enough to do repairs himself? Another pause. I don't know. Maybe. Why? Manager thanks him. Hangs up. Opens a new search on his computer. Financial records. Payroll deposits. Pulls the guard's direct deposit information. Cross-references it with his work schedule. Then he sees it. For the past 18 months, the guard was receiving 2 paychecks. One from the facility. One from a construction labor agency. Manager opens a construction company's website. General contractor. Day shifts. Primarily demolition and site prep. The kind of work that pays by the hour and doesn't ask questions. He calls the agency. I'm trying to verify employment for a former employee. Gives the guard's name. Woman on the other end types. Yes, he worked for us. Started about 2 years ago. Is he still with you? No. He left in August. Do you have a reason listed? Just says he resigned. No notice. Manager thanks her. Ends the call. He sits at his desk, staring at the access logs, financial records, maintenance reports, then picks up his phone again, calls the HR director. I need to see his personnel file. Everything. Performance reviews, emergency contacts, insurance forms. Why? Just send it. File arrives 20 minutes later. Manager opens it, scans through the pages. Employment application, tax forms, beneficiary designations. Then he stops. Emergency contact, Margaret Diaz. Relationship, mother. He searches the name online. First result is an obituary notice from 3 weeks ago. Margaret Diaz, age 67. Survived by her husband and one son. He closes the browser. Opens the obituary link again. Service was held at a funeral home on the south side. Notice includes a request for donations to the American Lung Association in lieu of flowers. Manager sits back in his chair. Opens a new browser tab. Searches for medical costs. Oxygen therapy. Long-term care. The numbers are staggering. He thinks about the fuel receipt. The valve replacement. The unauthorized access to the mechanical room. He thinks about the construction job. The second paycheck. The hours between shifts. He thinks about a man working 18-hour days. 7 days a week. Try and keep his parents alive while also keeping a building safe. He thinks about the footage. The guard asleep at his desk. Exhausted beyond comprehension. And he understands. The guard wasn't neglecting his job. He was doing too. He was fixing the building with his own time and his own money because he knew it needed to be done and there was no budget for it. He was preventing failures before they happened because he'd seen what failure looked like and couldn't let it happen again. And when his body finally gave out, when exhaustion overtook him and he fell asleep at his desk, no one asked why. They just fired him. Manager closes the file. He doesn't call the guard. Doesn't send an apology. There's nothing to say that would change what happened. He drafts a memo to the safety coordinator instead. Outlines the findings. The unauthorized maintenance. The personal expenditures. The pattern of preventive action. Recommends a full system audit and an increase to the maintenance budget. He does not recommend rehiring the guard. That door is closed. The memo circulates quietly. Facilities manager discusses it with the safety coordinator. HR director reads it and adds her own notes. Daytime lead is brief and private. No formal meeting is called. No official statement made. But the truth moves through the building anyway, the way uncomfortable truths always do. The younger guard hears it from the daytime lead in passing. You know the guy you replaced? Turns out he was fixing stuff out of his own pocket. Guard doesn't respond immediately. Then why would he do that? I don't know. Maybe he cared too much. The phrase sits between them, awkward and insufficient. Maintenance technician hears it from the facilities manager during a routine call. We found out your night guard was doing his own repairs. Unauthorized but effective. That explains some things. Like what? Like why the system was holding together better than it should have been. HR director mentions it to the regional safety coordinator during a conference call. We had an employee who was essentially funding maintenance out of pocket. We terminated him before we knew. Can you reverse it? No, he's been gone 2 months. We replaced him. And even if we could, I don't think he'd come back. Why not? Because we didn't trust him. Conversation ends there. One afternoon in late November, the facilities manager stands in the mechanical room, looking at the pressure valve the guard had adjusted. It's still holding. System running smoothly. He thinks about calling, about reaching out, about saying something. But he doesn't. What would he say? We were wrong? We're sorry? We should have asked? None of it would undo the termination. None of it would give back the sleep the guard lost, or the money he spent, or the quiet dignity of doing a job well, and being trusted to do it. Manager leaves the mechanical room, returns to his office. He approves the increased maintenance budget, schedules quarterly system audits, updates the safety protocols to include more frequent inspections. The building becomes safer because of what the guard did, but the guard is not there to see it. In early December, the daytime supervisor finds an old notebook in the storage room. It's the guard's, recognizes the handwriting from the shift logs. Inside are notes, pressure readings, temperature logs, dates and times for valve adjustments, sensor recalibrations, minor repairs. Every entry precise and detailed. Last entry is dated 3 days before he was fired. Backup generator fuel low. Purchase 15 gallons. Cost $52. Valve adjustment needed on east wing suppression line. We'll check next shift. Supervisor closes the notebook. Doesn't know what to do with it. Can't throw it away. Can't return it. So he puts it in a drawer in his desk and doesn't mention it to anyone. The building continues its work. Deliveries made. Inventory processed. Systems monitored. People go home safe at the end of every shift. and no one celebrates. On the night the coolant system failed, the new guard made the right calls, followed protocol, contacted maintenance, relocated the inventory. But if the system had failed 6 months earlier, when the valve was slowly leaking and no one knew, the outcome would have been different. If the backup generator had run out of fuel during a power outage, the refrigeration would have stopped. The pharmaceutical wing would have warmed. Thousands of doses of insulin and antibiotics and biologics would have been destroyed. Hospitals would have been notified. Emergency shipments arranged. Patients would have waited. Some would have been okay. Some would not. If the fire suppression line had failed during an electrical fire, the system would not have activated. The blaze would have spread. Building would have been evacuated. Damage catastrophic. These are the things that did not happen. Not because of luck. Not because of chance. Because someone noticed. Someone cared. Someone acted. And no one knew. The guard never told anyone. Never filed reports or asked for recognition. He simply saw what needed to be done and did it. He worked 2 jobs, so he could afford to fix a building that wasn't his responsibility to fix. He lost sleep so others could stay safe. And when his body finally broke under the weight of it, when exhaustion pulled him under and he closed his eyes for just a moment, the people he'd been protecting decided he wasn't worth keeping. There are no news stories about the disasters that didn't happen. No headlines reading, "Local guard prevents catastrophic equipment failure." No interviews, no awards, no recognition. Just a building that stands. Just systems at work. Just people who go home at the end of the day and never know how close they came to something else. In January, the new maintenance budget takes effect. Facilities manager hires a second technician. They begin a comprehensive inspection of every system in the building. They find 3 more issues the guard had quietly addressed. Frayed electrical wire in the loading bay. Corroded coolant line in the west wing. Backup pump that had been manually primed to prevent failure. Each one is documented. Each one repaired properly. The building becomes what it should have been all along. But the cost was already paid by someone who isn't there anymore. The guard sits in a folding chair in a small booth at the entrance to a storage facility. It's 2 a.m. Monitors in front of him show empty corridors and locked units. Outside, the street is quiet. A truck passes. Headlights cutting through the dark. Then silence. He drinks lukewarm coffee from a thermos. Eyes are heavy, but he stays awake. This job is easier than the last one. Fewer systems to monitor. Fewer responsibilities. He doesn't make as much. Doesn't need to anymore. His mother passed in October. His father followed 6 weeks later. Funeral was small, 12 people. Brief service. He paid for both with money he didn't have. He's still working the construction job during the day. Still hauling debris, sweeping floors, loading dumpsters. Work is steady. Doesn't require much thought. At night, he monitors the storage facility. People come and go, access their units, load their belongings, leave. He waves them through the gate and logs their visits. It's simple, quiet. No one depends on him for their safety. No critical systems hover on the edge of failure. If he closes his eyes for a moment, no one will die. But he doesn't. He stays awake because that's what the job requires. Because that's who he is. On his break, he walks the perimeter of the facility. Fence is chain link, 8 feet high, topped with barbed wire. Lights are motion activated, clicking on as he passes. He checks the lock on the main gate, tests the hinges, makes sure the access panel on the security system is sealed. No one told him to do this. It's not in his job description, but he does it anyway. At 5 a.m., his shift ends. Clocks out on a tablet mounted to wall. Walks to his car. Sky is starting to lighten, gray and cold. Drives home through empty streets. Parks in the same spot he always does. Climbs the stairs to his apartment. Unlocks the door. Inside, the apartment is quiet. No pill bottles on the counter. No medical equipment. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint sound of traffic outside. He makes coffee. Drinks it at the window. Watches the city wake up. At 6, he'll leave for the construction site. Work until 2:30. Then come home. Sleep for a few hours. Return to the storage facility at 10 p.m. The cycle continues. He doesn't think about the medical facility anymore. Doesn't wonder if they found his notes or if they understood what he'd been doing. It doesn't matter. The building is safe. Systems are working. People are going home at the end of their shifts without ever knowing what might have happened. And that's enough. He finishes his coffee, sets the cup in the sink, lies down on the couch, closes his eyes. Outside, the city moves forward. Buses run their routes. Buildings open their doors. Systems hum and click and do their work. And somewhere in the space between what is and what could have been, a man sleeps. Not because he's neglecting his duty, but because he's already done it. And no one will ever know. Some sacrifices are measured in what never happens, in disasters avoided, in lives that continue without interruption because someone, somewhere, decided that doing the right thing mattered more than being recognized for it.
If this story stayed with you, don't rush past it. Think about the last time you were certain you understood a situation and later realized you didn't. We'll be back with another story soon. Until then, pay attention.